Question 1. Which approach would be most appropriate for the admissions committee when reviewing an applicant's submitted academic transcripts that appear to omit a significant period of study, raising concerns about completeness and accuracy? Option A. Immediately reject the application due to the suspected incomplete academic record, citing a lack of transparency. Option B. Proceed with the application, assuming the provided transcripts are complete and accurate, to avoid delaying the admissions process. Option C. Consult with other university departments to gauge their general policies on incomplete academic records before taking any action. Option D. Contact the applicant to request an explanation for the omission and ask for official documentation from the omitted period of study. The correct answer is D. Contact the applicant to request an explanation for the omission and ask for official documentation from the omitted period of study. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing academic integrity with the university's admission policies, while also navigating the ethical implications of potentially misleading information. The applicant's situation, while understandable, presents a conflict between their desire to gain admission and the requirement for truthful representation of their academic record. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness to all applicants and adherence to the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves directly addressing the discrepancy with the applicant and seeking clarification and official documentation. This upholds the principle of academic honesty, which is a cornerstone of university admissions. By engaging the applicant directly and requesting verifiable evidence, the university ensures that its admission decisions are based on accurate information, as mandated by the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam guidelines that emphasize truthful reporting of academic qualifications. This process also allows for a fair assessment of the applicant's eligibility based on established criteria, preventing any undue advantage or disadvantage. An incorrect approach would be to overlook the discrepancy and proceed with the application as if the information provided were accurate. This failure to verify crucial academic details violates the spirit of the entrance exam regulations, which implicitly require accurate self-reporting. It also creates an unfair playing field for other applicants who have diligently provided complete and accurate information. Furthermore, admitting a student based on potentially falsified information could lead to future academic difficulties and undermine the integrity of the university's academic programs. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application without giving the applicant an opportunity to explain or rectify the situation. While accuracy is paramount, university admissions processes should also allow for due process and consideration of extenuating circumstances, provided they can be substantiated. An outright rejection without inquiry could be seen as overly punitive and contrary to the university's commitment to supporting aspiring students, provided they meet the core academic requirements. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of all submitted documents, identification of any inconsistencies or missing information, and a clear, documented communication with the applicant to seek clarification and supporting evidence. If the applicant fails to provide satisfactory explanations or documentation, then a decision can be made based on the available, verified information. In strict accordance with the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations, this structured approach ensures fairness, transparency, and adherence to established academic and ethical standards. Question 2. Implementation of a new online proctoring system for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam requires careful consideration of how to best communicate the rules and expectations regarding academic integrity to all prospective students. Which of the following strategies best upholds the principles of fairness and academic honesty as mandated by the university's entrance exam regulations? Option A. Issuing a brief, general statement about honesty on the exam website without specific examples of prohibited actions. Option B. Providing a comprehensive digital handbook detailing all rules, acceptable behaviors, and consequences of academic misconduct, accessible during the registration period and prior to the exam. Option C. Relying on the assumption that all applicants are already fully aware of and will adhere to all academic integrity standards without explicit instruction. Option D. Implementing strict surveillance with immediate disqualification for any minor, unintentional technical glitches that might be misinterpreted as cheating. The correct answer is B. providing a comprehensive digital handbook detailing all rules, acceptable behaviors, and consequences of academic misconduct, accessible during the registration period and prior to the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the ethical and regulatory considerations surrounding academic integrity within the context of university entrance exams. The pressure to perform well can lead to temptation, and the university must ensure that its admissions process is fair and upholds the principles of academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of these principles. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent communication strategy that clearly outlines the university's expectations regarding academic integrity and the consequences of violations. This approach aligns with the regulatory framework of Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam by emphasizing fairness, honesty, and the prevention of academic misconduct. It establishes a clear understanding of acceptable behavior, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the examination process and ensuring a level playing field for all candidates. This proactive stance is ethically sound as it prioritizes transparency and fairness. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on punitive measures without prior clear communication fails to establish a foundation of understanding and may be perceived as overly harsh or unfair. This could violate the spirit of the exam regulations by not providing adequate guidance. Another incorrect approach that involves ignoring potential minor infractions undermines the principle of consistent enforcement of rules, which is crucial for maintaining the credibility of the examination. This could lead to a perception of bias or leniency, thereby compromising the fairness of the process. Finally, an approach that relies on vague or ambiguous statements about academic integrity leaves room for misinterpretation and does not provide sufficient clarity to candidates, potentially leading to unintentional violations. This lacks the specificity required by a robust regulatory framework. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes clear communication of expectations, consistent enforcement of rules, and a fair process for addressing any alleged violations. This involves understanding the specific regulations governing the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, considering the ethical implications of each decision, and aiming to uphold the integrity and fairness of the admissions process. Question 3. The evaluation methodology shows that applicants for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam are expected to prepare diligently. An applicant, Lai Hua, is reviewing materials for the upcoming exam. Lai Hua has access to the official syllabus and recommended textbooks provided by the university. Lai Hua is also aware that some applicants in previous years have shared their experiences and study tips on online student forums. Lai Hua is considering how to best prepare. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations and ethical standards? Option A. Relying exclusively on the official syllabus and recommended textbooks, and strictly adhering to all stated examination rules and guidelines. Option B. Consulting unofficial online student forums to gather insights into potential exam topics and common question types. Based on past applicant discussions. Option C. Contacting current students or recent alumni to inquire about specific exam content, difficulty, and effective study strategies they employed. Option D. Prioritizing study based on general assumptions about the difficulty of university entrance exams, without specific reference to Anhui Polytechnic University's official guidance. Correct answer is A. Relying exclusively on the official syllabus and recommended textbooks, and strictly adhering to all stated examination rules and guidelines. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Anhui Polytechnic University's specific entrance examination regulations and ethical guidelines, particularly concerning academic integrity and the appropriate use of information. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between acceptable preparation methods and those that constitute academic misconduct, which could lead to disqualification. Careful judgment is required to navigate the fine line between diligent study and unfair advantage. The correct approach involves utilizing official university-provided study materials and adhering strictly to the examination's stated rules regarding external resources. This approach is correct because it aligns with the principles of fair competition and academic honesty mandated by the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations. By relying solely on approved materials and following the examination's procedural guidelines, the applicant demonstrates respect for the integrity of the examination process and avoids any actions that could be construed as cheating or seeking an unfair advantage. This is ethically sound and procedurally compliant with the university's framework. An incorrect approach that involves consulting unofficial online forums for past exam questions and answers is professionally unacceptable. This fails to comply with the university's regulations, which implicitly or explicitly prohibit the use of unauthorized materials or information that could provide an unfair advantage. Such actions undermine the fairness of the examination and violate the ethical obligation to compete honestly. Another incorrect approach, which is to seek direct assistance from current students or alumni regarding specific exam content or strategies, is also professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a form of collusion or seeking insider information, directly contravening the spirit and letter of academic integrity rules. It bypasses the intended assessment of an applicant's own knowledge and abilities, creating an inequitable situation for other candidates. A further incorrect approach, such as attempting to guess the exam's difficulty level based on anecdotal evidence from previous years without consulting official guidelines, is less severe but still professionally suboptimal. While not outright cheating, it relies on unreliable information and deviates from the structured preparation encouraged by the university. It demonstrates a lack of diligence in seeking out and adhering to official guidance, potentially leading to misallocated study efforts. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical codes. Applicants should prioritize official communication channels and materials provided by the institution. When in doubt about the permissibility of a particular study method or resource, the safest and most ethical course of action is to err on the side of caution and consult the official examination guidelines or contact the university's admissions office for clarification. The focus should always be on demonstrating one's own merit through legitimate means. Question 4. During the evaluation of an applicant's submission for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, a reviewer notices significant similarities between the applicant's essay and content found on an academic website, raising concerns about potential plagiarism. The reviewer is unsure of the exact extent of the similarity or whether it constitutes deliberate academic misconduct. What is the most appropriate course of action for the reviewer? Option A. Discuss the observed similarities with other reviewers and admissions staff to gauge their opinions before taking any action. Option B. Proceed with a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, gathering evidence and providing the applicant an opportunity to explain the similarities in accordance with university examination regulations. Option C. Submit the application for admission without further action, assuming the similarities might be coincidental or minor. Option D. Immediately disqualify the applicant based on the initial suspicion of plagiarism to maintain the integrity of the exam. The correct answer is B. Proceed with a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, gathering evidence and providing the applicant an opportunity to explain the similarities in accordance with university examination regulations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam by requiring them to demonstrate an understanding of the university's academic integrity policies and the ethical implications of academic misconduct. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and responsible course of action when faced with evidence of potential plagiarism, balancing the need to uphold academic standards with fairness to the applicant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the suspected plagiarism. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's commitment to academic integrity, as outlined in its examination regulations and student conduct guidelines. Such an investigation ensures that all applicants are assessed fairly and that the university's reputation for academic rigor is maintained. It requires gathering evidence, providing the applicant an opportunity to respond, and then making a decision based on established university procedures. This process upholds the principles of due process and fairness. Incorrect approach is analysis. Submitting the application without further review, despite suspicion of plagiarism, fails to uphold the university's academic integrity policies. This approach risks allowing an unqualified or dishonest applicant to gain admission, undermining the standards of the university and potentially disadvantaging other deserving candidates. It represents a dereliction of the responsibility to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. Immediately rejecting the application based solely on suspicion, without investigation or allowing the applicant to present their case, violates principles of fairness and due process. University regulations typically require a formal process for addressing allegations of academic misconduct, which includes an opportunity for the accused to respond. This approach is procedurally unfair and could lead to an incorrect judgment. Consulting with other applicants about the suspected plagiarism is a serious breach of confidentiality and professional conduct. Information related to an applicant's performance or potential misconduct is sensitive and should only be discussed with authorized university personnel involved in the examination review process. This action compromises the integrity of the evaluation and could create an unfair bias. Professional reasoning. Professionals involved in university admissions and examinations must adhere to established policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with potential academic misconduct, the decision-making process should involve 1. Recognizing the potential issue and its implications for academic integrity. 2. Consulting relevant university regulations and policies regarding academic misconduct and examination procedures. 3. Initiating a fair and impartial investigation process, which includes gathering evidence and allowing the applicant to respond. 4. Making a decision based on the findings of the investigation and university policy. 5. Maintaining confidentiality throughout the process. Question 5. The evaluation methodology shows that the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam is designed to assess a candidate's foundational knowledge and problem-solving skills acquired through standard academic preparation. A prospective student, eager to excel, is considering various study strategies. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and the stated evaluation methodology for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam? Option A. Diligently studying the official syllabus provided by the university, reviewing past examination papers released by the university, and consulting standard academic textbooks relevant to the subject matter. Option B. Obtaining and memorizing answers to questions from a set of unofficial practice materials circulating among recent applicants, which are rumored to be very similar to the actual exam. Option C. Participating in intensive private tutoring sessions, where the tutor claims to have insider knowledge of the exam-specific question types and potential answers. Option D. Forming a study group that focuses on collaboratively solving problems from unofficial online forums, where members share insights and potential solutions without verifying their source or accuracy. The correct answer is A. Diligently studying the official syllabus provided by the university, reviewing past examination papers released by the university, and consulting standard academic textbooks relevant to the subject matter. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Anhui Polytechnic University's specific entrance examination regulations and ethical guidelines, particularly concerning academic integrity and the appropriate use of information. The challenge lies in distinguishing between acceptable preparation methods and those that could be construed as academic misconduct, which could jeopardize their application. Careful judgment is required to navigate the fine line between diligent study and unfair advantage. The correct approach involves utilizing publicly available and officially sanctioned resources for exam preparation. This aligns with the university's commitment to a fair and equitable assessment process. By focusing on official syllabi, past papers released by the university, and general academic knowledge, the applicant adheres to the spirit of the entrance examination, which aims to evaluate a candidate's inherent understanding and preparation. This approach is ethically sound and compliant with the implicit expectation of academic honesty inherent in any university entrance process. An incorrect approach would be to seek or utilize unauthorized examination materials, such as leaked questions or answers. This constitutes academic dishonesty and a direct violation of the principles of fair competition. Such actions undermine the integrity of the examination process and demonstrate a lack of ethical judgment, which are critical qualities for university students. Another incorrect approach would be to rely solely on informal study groups that might inadvertently share or discuss specific, non-publicly released exam content, as this blurs the lines of acceptable collaboration and could lead to accusations of collusion or unfair advantage. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the examination's governing rules and ethical expectations. Applicants should prioritize official resources, engage in honest self-study, and seek clarification from the university if unsure about acceptable preparation methods. The guiding principle should always be to ensure that one's preparation is transparent, fair, and does not confer an undue advantage over other candidates. Question 6. Performance analysis shows a consistent pattern of minor deviations from standard examination procedures by a particular invigilator during recent mock entrance tests for Anhui Polytechnic University. Specifically, this invigilator has been observed providing subtle, non-verbal cues to candidates in their vicinity when they appear to be struggling with questions. While these cues are not overt answers, they could be interpreted as guidance. What is the most appropriate course of action for a senior proctor observing this behavior? Option A. Discuss the observed behavior with other proctors during a break to gauge their opinions and decide on a collective course of action. Option B. Discreetly speak to the invigilator after the mock test to advise them on maintaining strict neutrality and to remind them of the examination rules. Option C. Document the observed behavior factually and report it immediately to the Chief Examination Officer, detailing the specific instances and the nature of the non-verbal cues. Option D. Ignore the behavior, assuming it is unintentional and unlikely to significantly impact the overall results of the mock test. The correct answer is C. Document the observed behavior factually and report it immediately to the Chief Examination Officer, detailing the specific instances and the nature of the non-verbal cues. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an understanding of the Anhui Polytechnic University's specific entrance examination regulations and ethical guidelines concerning academic integrity. The challenge lies in identifying and responding appropriately to a situation that could compromise the fairness and validity of the examination process, necessitating a judgment call that upholds the university's standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves reporting the observed irregularity to the designated examination authority immediately and providing a factual account of the situation. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations, which mandate that all individuals involved in the examination process must uphold academic integrity and report any suspected breaches. Prompt and accurate reporting ensures that the university can investigate the matter thoroughly and take appropriate action to maintain the fairness and credibility of the entrance exam. This upholds the ethical principle of honesty and responsibility within the academic environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to ignore the observation. This fails to uphold the duty to report irregularities as stipulated by the examination regulations and demonstrates a lack of commitment to academic integrity. It allows a potential breach to go unaddressed, undermining the fairness of the exam for all candidates. Another incorrect approach is to confront the candidate directly or attempt to resolve the issue independently. This bypasses the established reporting procedures outlined in the university's guidelines. Such actions could escalate the situation, potentially compromise the investigation, or even lead to accusations of bias or improper conduct by the observer, violating the principle of due process and the established authority of the examination committee. A further incorrect approach is to discuss the observation with other invigilators or candidates before reporting it. This constitutes a breach of confidentiality and could lead to the spread of misinformation or speculation, prejudicing any subsequent investigation and violating the ethical obligation to maintain the integrity and impartiality of the examination process. Professional reasoning. Professionals in examination settings should follow a clear decision-making framework. 1. Identify the irregularity based on established rules and guidelines. 2. Immediately report the observation to the designated authority, providing objective details. 3. Cooperate fully with any subsequent investigation. 4. Maintain confidentiality throughout the process. This framework ensures adherence to regulations, ethical conduct, and the preservation of academic integrity. Question 7. The evaluation methodology shows that a candidate, after completing the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance examination, approaches the invigilator and expresses concern about a specific question, suggesting it was unfairly worded and requesting a review of their score for that particular item, implying a desire for preferential treatment. The invigilator must decide how to respond. Option A. Agree to re-examine the specific question and adjust the candidate's score if the invigilator personally believes the question was indeed unfair, to ensure a more equitable outcome for that candidate. Option B. Offer to provide the candidate with the correct answer to the question they are concerned about, so they can understand where they went wrong and potentially feel more satisfied with their performance. Option C. Politely explain that the examination procedures do not permit any post-examination discussions or alterations to scores based on individual candidate feedback regarding question wording, and that all evaluations are conducted according to the established marking scheme. Option D. Suggest to the candidate that they can submit a formal appeal through the university's official channels after the results are released, but emphasize that the current examination process cannot be altered. The correct answer is C. Politely explain that the examination procedures do not permit any post-examination discussions or alterations to scores based on individual candidate feedback regarding question wording, and that all evaluations are conducted according to the established marking scheme. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between academic integrity and the pressure to achieve favorable outcomes in a high-stakes university entrance examination. The candidate's request, while seemingly minor, touches upon the fundamental principles of fairness and impartiality that underpin any assessment process. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles, while also acknowledging the candidate's perspective. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent refusal of the candidate's request, coupled with a clear explanation of the examination's established procedures, and the prohibition of any external assistance or alteration of the evaluation process. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's regulatory framework for entrance examinations, which emphasizes objective assessment and the prevention of any form of academic misconduct. Upholding the integrity of the examination process is paramount, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on their own merits. This approach is ethically sound as it promotes fairness and equal opportunity for all participants. An incorrect approach would be to consider altering the scoring or providing hints to the candidate. This directly violates the Anhui Polytechnic University's examination regulations concerning the sanctity of the assessment. Such an action would constitute a breach of professional ethics, undermining the credibility of the university and the examination itself. It would also create an unfair advantage for the candidate, compromising the principle of meritocracy. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the candidate's request and proceed with the standard evaluation without addressing the concern. While this might seem like avoiding direct confrontation, it fails to uphold the principles of transparency and responsiveness expected of examination administrators. It could lead to the candidate feeling unheard or unfairly treated, potentially escalating the issue. Furthermore, it misses an opportunity to reinforce the examination's integrity and rules. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Understanding the core principles of the examination. Recognize that the primary objective is fair and objective evaluation. 2. Identifying potential conflicts. Be aware of situations where personal biases or external pressures might compromise integrity. 3. Consulting relevant regulations. Familiarize oneself with the specific rules and guidelines of the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance examination. 4. Communicating clearly and professionally. Address the candidate's request directly, explaining the limitations and adhering strictly to established procedures. 5. Maintaining impartiality. Ensure that all decisions are based on established rules and not on personal feelings or external influence. Question 8. Stakeholder feedback indicates that a significant external corporation has expressed strong interest in funding a new research project at Anhui Polytechnic University, specifically in an area aligned with the corporation's commercial interests. The corporation has subtly suggested that a favorable outcome for their business objectives would be highly valued. The university's research department is eager to secure this substantial funding. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct approach for the university to take? Option A. Expedite the ethics review process by having the department head, who is also involved in seeking the funding, provide a preliminary approval to speed up the process. Option B. Negotiate directly with the corporation to guarantee that the research outcomes will be presented in a manner that is most beneficial to their business objectives before the research design is finalized. Option C. Submit the proposed research project for a comprehensive review by an independent university ethics committee to assess potential conflicts of interest and ensure adherence to academic integrity standards, regardless of the funding source or its implied expectations. Option D. Accept the funding immediately and instruct the research team to prioritize findings that align with the corporation's commercial interests to ensure continued financial support. The correct answer is C. Submit the proposed research project for a comprehensive review by an independent university ethics committee to assess potential conflicts of interest and ensure adherence to academic integrity standards, regardless of the funding source or its implied expectations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate need for funding with the ethical obligation to ensure that research conducted under its auspices adheres to academic integrity and avoids potential conflicts of interest. The pressure to secure funding can create an environment where ethical considerations might be overlooked, necessitating careful judgment and adherence to established guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the proposed research by an independent ethics committee, ensuring that the funding source does not unduly influence the research design, methodology, or dissemination of findings. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's commitment to academic integrity and its responsibility to uphold the highest ethical standards in research. Such a review process is crucial for maintaining the credibility of the university and its researchers, and for safeguarding against the appearance or reality of compromised objectivity. This approach is directly supported by the university's internal research ethics guidelines and general principles of academic conduct expected within Chinese higher education institutions. Incorrect approach is analysis. Accepting the funding without independent review risks compromising the integrity of the research. This fails to uphold the university's ethical obligations and could lead to findings that are biased or misrepresented, damaging the university's reputation. This approach violates the spirit of academic independence and the university's internal policies on research funding. Seeking to expedite the review process by bypassing certain standard procedures, even with the intention of securing funding quickly, is also an ethical failure. This demonstrates a disregard for the established protocols designed to ensure research quality and ethical compliance. It undermines the rigorous oversight necessary for maintaining academic standards and could lead to the approval of research that would otherwise be flagged for ethical concerns. Directly negotiating terms that would guarantee a favorable outcome for the funding body before the research has even been designed or reviewed represents a severe breach of academic ethics. This predetermines the research's conclusions to suit the funder's interests, fundamentally corrupting the research process and violating the principles of objective inquiry. This is contrary to the core values of academic freedom and scientific integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings should always prioritize ethical conduct and adherence to institutional guidelines. When faced with funding opportunities, a structured decision-making process should be followed. 1. Identify potential ethical considerations and conflicts of interest. 2. Consult relevant university policies and national regulations regarding research ethics and funding. 3. Engage with independent oversight bodies such as ethics committees for review and approval. 4. Ensure transparency and objectivity throughout the research lifecycle. 5. Document all decisions and justifications. In situations where there is pressure to compromise ethical standards for financial gain, professionals must firmly advocate for adherence to established protocols, recognizing that long-term institutional reputation and academic integrity are paramount. Question 9. The risk matrix shows a notation related to the applicant's previous academic conduct that is not clearly defined within the general admission criteria for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam. The applicant is unsure if this notation will negatively impact their application. Which of the following actions demonstrates the most professional and compliant approach? Option A. Directly contact the Anhui Polytechnic University admissions office to seek clarification on the meaning and implications of the risk matrix notation for their application. Option B. Ask friends who have previously applied to the university for advice on how to handle the situation. Option C. Proceed with the application, assuming the notation is minor and will not affect their chances of admission. Option D. Attempt to explain away the notation, or omit it from the application to avoid potential issues. The correct answer is A. Directly contact the Anhui Polytechnic University Admissions Office to seek clarification on the meaning and implications of the risk matrix notation for their application. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the applicant to balance academic integrity with the practical application of university admission policies. The applicant is presented with information that could be interpreted in multiple ways, and a decision must be made that aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's stated admission guidelines, while also considering the spirit of fairness. The challenge lies in discerning whether the presented information constitutes a genuine impediment to admission or a minor issue that can be addressed through appropriate channels, all within the framework of the university's entrance exam regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves seeking clarification directly from the Anhui Polytechnic University's admissions office regarding the specific implications of the risk matrix entry for their application. This is the most appropriate professional action because it adheres strictly to the university's established procedures for handling admission-related queries and potential discrepancies. It demonstrates a commitment to transparency and a willingness to follow the official channels for resolving issues, which is paramount in any academic or professional context governed by specific regulations. By directly engaging with the admissions office, the applicant ensures they are acting based on authoritative guidance, thereby upholding the integrity of the entrance exam process and respecting the university's regulatory framework. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that involves ignoring the risk matrix entry and proceeding with the application without seeking clarification is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for potentially significant information that could impact eligibility, violating the principle of honesty and transparency expected in university admissions. It also bypasses the established regulatory process for addressing such matters. Another incorrect approach would be to assume the risk matrix entry is a minor issue and to try to downplay or omit it during the application process. This constitutes a misrepresentation of facts and undermines the integrity of the application. University entrance exams are designed to assess candidates based on accurate information, and any attempt to conceal or minimize relevant data violates ethical standards and the university's guidelines. Finally, an approach that involves seeking advice from unofficial sources or peers without verifying the information with the university's admissions office is also professionally unsound. While well-intentioned, such advice may be inaccurate or not aligned with the specific regulations of Anhui Polytechnic University, leading to potential missteps and jeopardizing the application. This approach fails to prioritize authoritative guidance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic admissions and applicants alike must operate within a clear framework of rules and ethical conduct. When faced with ambiguity or potentially problematic information, the primary decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the relevant regulations or policies, in this case, Anhui Polytechnic University's admission guidelines. 2. Recognizing any information that appears to conflict with or require clarification under these regulations, the risk matrix entry. 3. Prioritizing direct communication with the authoritative body responsible for interpreting and enforcing these regulations, the admissions office. 4. Acting solely based on the official guidance received. This systematic approach ensures compliance, maintains integrity, and fosters a fair and transparent process. Question 10. The assessment process reveals that one of the candidates for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam has a parent who is a senior administrator within the university. The admissions committee is aware of this relationship. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and ethically sound approach for the committee to adopt? Option A. The committee should consult with the candidate's parent, the senior administrator, to understand their expectations and ensure the candidate's application is viewed favorably. Option B. The committee should proceed with the evaluation of the candidate strictly according to the published admission criteria, ensuring no special consideration is given due to the familial relationship, and document this adherence. Option C. The committee should subtly adjust the candidate's assessment scores to ensure they meet the minimum requirements as a gesture of goodwill. Option D. The committee should give the candidate preferential consideration to acknowledge the family's long-standing contribution to the university. The correct answer is B. The committee should proceed with the evaluation of the candidate strictly according to the published admission criteria, ensuring no special consideration is given due to the familial relationship, and document this adherence. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge common in university admissions, particularly in competitive entrance exams like that for Anhui Polytechnic University. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's commitment to academic merit with the need to ensure fairness and prevent undue influence or bias in the selection process. The admissions committee must navigate potential conflicts of interest and maintain the integrity of the evaluation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a transparent and objective review process, adhering strictly to the published admission criteria for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam. This means evaluating all candidates based on their academic performance, standardized test scores, and any other officially designated assessment components, without consideration of personal connections or external pressures. This aligns with the fundamental principles of fairness and meritocracy enshrined in educational regulations and ethical guidelines for academic institutions in China, ensuring that admission is based solely on a candidate's qualifications and potential to succeed in their chosen program. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that prioritizes a candidate due to a personal relationship with a faculty member is ethically unsound and violates the principles of fair competition. This constitutes favoritism and undermines the integrity of the admissions process, potentially leading to the selection of less qualified individuals over more deserving ones. Such an action would contravene the spirit and likely the letter of regulations governing university admissions, which emphasize impartiality. An approach that suggests altering a candidate's assessment results to meet a perceived threshold, even with good intentions, is a direct violation of academic integrity and admission policies. This is a form of academic misconduct, as it involves falsifying data and misrepresenting a candidate's true abilities. It erodes trust in the university's evaluation system and can have severe legal and reputational consequences. An approach that involves seeking external advice from individuals not officially part of the admissions committee, especially if that advice is intended to influence the outcome based on non-academic factors, introduces bias and compromises the objectivity of the decision-making. This can lead to decisions not grounded in established criteria, potentially disadvantaging other candidates and violating the principles of equitable assessment. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of the official admission policies and guidelines. They must then apply these criteria consistently and impartially to all candidates. When faced with potential conflicts of interest or external pressures, the professional's duty is to uphold the integrity of the process by adhering strictly to established rules and reporting any perceived impropriety through appropriate channels. Transparency, objectivity, and fairness are paramount. Question 11. The performance metrics show a consistent upward trend in graduate employment rates for the mechanical engineering program over the past 3 years, with a significant increase in the most recent year. However, a deeper analysis reveals that this increase is largely due to a surge in temporary contract positions rather than permanent roles, and the average starting salary has remained relatively stagnant. The university is preparing its promotional materials for the upcoming entrance exam. Which of the following approaches best reflects the ethical and professional responsibility of Anhui Polytechnic University in presenting this information to prospective students? Option A. Present the overall graduate employment rate as a key indicator of program success, while also providing a nuanced breakdown of employment types, permanent vs. contract, and average starting salary data to offer a complete picture. Option B. Focus on the qualitative feedback from industry partners about the program's curriculum, downplaying the specific quantitative employment metrics to avoid potential negative interpretations. Option C. Highlight the impressive year-on-year increase in graduate employment rates as a primary selling point, emphasizing the strong demand for mechanical engineering graduates. Option D. Emphasize the historical success of the program and the university's reputation, suggesting that current employment metrics are less critical for prospective students to consider. The correct answer is C. Highlight the impressive year-on-year increase in graduate employment rates as a primary selling point, emphasizing the strong demand for mechanical engineering graduates. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's desire for positive public perception and enrollment figures with the ethical obligation to accurately represent the academic programs and their outcomes. Misrepresenting program performance can mislead prospective students and their families, potentially leading to poor academic choices and dissatisfaction, which in turn can damage the university's reputation in the long run. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a conflict of interest, tempting individuals to present data in a more favorable light than reality. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves transparently presenting the performance metrics, including both successes and areas for improvement, and contextualizing them with explanations of the factors influencing these metrics. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's commitment to academic integrity and its responsibility to provide prospective students with accurate information. Ethically, this approach upholds the principle of honesty and avoids deception. From a regulatory perspective, while specific entrance exam regulations might not detail performance metric reporting, the overarching principles of fair competition and truthful advertising, which are implicit in educational admissions, are upheld. This approach fosters trust and allows students to make informed decisions based on realistic expectations. Incorrect approach is analysis. Presenting only the most favorable performance metrics without context or acknowledging limitations is misleading. This violates the ethical principle of truthfulness and can be seen as deceptive advertising, potentially contravening general guidelines for educational institutions regarding fair representation of their offerings. Focusing solely on metrics that are easily quantifiable and ignoring qualitative aspects of program success, such as student satisfaction or alumni career development beyond initial placement rates, provides an incomplete picture. This can lead to a skewed perception of program quality and fails to meet the comprehensive information needs of prospective students. Exaggerating the impact of certain metrics or attributing success to factors not directly supported by the data is a form of misrepresentation. This undermines academic integrity and can lead to a breach of trust with prospective students and the wider academic community. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions and marketing should adopt a framework that prioritizes transparency and accuracy. This involves 1. Understanding the audience's information needs. Prospective students need a realistic view of program strengths and weaknesses. 2. Data integrity. Ensuring all presented data is accurate and verifiable. 3. Contextualization. Providing explanations for performance metrics, including external factors and internal initiatives. 4. Ethical review. Regularly assessing communication materials for potential misrepresentation or exaggeration. 5. Seeking feedback. Incorporating feedback from current students and alumni to provide a more holistic program assessment. Question 12. Investigation of a reported anomaly in the recent Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, where a small group of students from a particular preparatory course achieved unusually high scores across multiple subjects, has raised concerns about the fairness and integrity of the examination process. What is the most appropriate initial course of action for the Examination Oversight Committee? Option A. Conduct individual interviews with the high-scoring students from the preparatory course to ascertain their study methods and perceived difficulty of the examination, focusing on their personal preparation strategies. Option B. Immediately flag the preparatory course for potential malpractice and recommend a review of its accreditation status based on the aggregated performance of its students. Option C. Analyze the individual performance data of all students to identify any outliers, and then focus investigative efforts solely on those students who scored exceptionally high, regardless of their preparatory course affiliation. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination administration procedures, security protocols, and scoring mechanisms for the entire cohort, cross-referencing with the specific preparatory courses' enrollment and performance data to identify any systemic irregularities or potential breaches of examination integrity. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination administration procedures, security protocols, and scoring mechanisms for the entire cohort, cross-referencing with the specific preparatory courses' enrollment and performance data to identify any systemic irregularities or potential breaches of examination integrity. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fairness within the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance examination system. The challenge lies in balancing the need to uphold the integrity of the examination process with the potential for undue influence or bias, which could compromise the meritocratic selection of candidates. Careful judgment is required to identify and address any irregularities without unfairly disadvantaging legitimate candidates or creating a perception of impropriety. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and objective review of the examination process, focusing on identifying any deviations from established protocols and regulations specific to the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam. This includes scrutinizing the examination materials for potential security breaches, verifying the fairness of the examination environment, and ensuring that all candidates were assessed under identical conditions as mandated by the university's examination guidelines. This approach is correct because it directly addresses potential systemic issues that could undermine the validity of the results, adhering to the university's commitment to a fair and transparent selection process. It prioritizes evidence-based assessment of the examination's integrity, aligning with the core principles of academic assessment and institutional reputation. Correct approach is analysis, an approach that focuses solely on the performance of individual students without investigating the examination process itself, is incorrect. This fails to address the root cause of any potential disparities and may lead to unfair conclusions about student capabilities. It neglects the university's responsibility to ensure the integrity of the examination administration, which is a prerequisite for valid individual assessments. An approach that involves making subjective judgments about the potential of candidates based on factors outside the examination criteria is incorrect. This introduces bias and deviates from the objective assessment framework established by the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam regulations. Such an approach undermines the meritocratic principle and can lead to discriminatory practices, violating ethical standards of fairness and equal opportunity. An approach that involves immediately disqualifying candidates based on anecdotal evidence or rumors without a thorough, objective investigation is incorrect. This violates the principles of due process and fairness. It can lead to the unjust penalization of students and damage the reputation of the university for arbitrary decision-making. All allegations must be investigated rigorously and impartially according to established university procedures. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this context should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the Anhui Polytechnic University's examination regulations and ethical guidelines. When faced with potential irregularities, the first step is to gather objective evidence. This involves reviewing examination procedures, security logs, and candidate records. The focus should always be on systemic integrity and adherence to established protocols. Any concerns should be escalated through the appropriate university channels for a formal investigation. The decision-making process must be transparent, fair, and grounded in evidence, ensuring that any actions taken are consistent with the university's commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct. Question 13. Process analysis reveals that during the preparation period for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, a student approaches a university staff member who is involved in administrative support for the exam, seeking advice on specific topics that are likely to be heavily weighted. The staff member is aware of the official syllabus and has access to past exam papers. What is the most appropriate course of action for the staff member to take to uphold the integrity of the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam? Option A. Share some of the more challenging questions from past papers with the student, explaining how to approach them to give the student a competitive edge. Option B. Offer the student specific insights into the topics that are likely to be heavily weighted based on the staff member's knowledge of past exams. To help the student focus their study efforts, Option C. Provide the student with general guidance on study strategies and direct them to the officially published syllabus and recommended reading lists, while also reporting the student's request to the examination administration for awareness. Option D. Advise the student to consult with their current teachers for study advice, and do not engage further with the student's specific requests regarding exam content. The correct answer is C. Provide the student with general guidance on study strategies and direct them to the officially published syllabus and recommended reading lists, while also reporting the student's request to the examination administration for awareness. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in academic settings where students might seek an unfair advantage. The professional challenge lies in upholding academic integrity and fairness, while also being approachable and supportive to students. The university entrance exam is a critical juncture, and any deviation from established protocols could compromise the fairness of the assessment process and the reputation of Anhui Polytechnic University. The pressure to perform well on entrance exams can lead some students to explore unethical avenues, requiring vigilant adherence to regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the Anhui Polytechnic University's official examination regulations. This means ensuring all students have access to the same, officially sanctioned study materials and preparation resources. It also requires reporting any observed or suspected breaches of examination rules to the appropriate university authorities for investigation and action. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the principles of fairness, equity, and academic integrity mandated by the university's entrance exam framework. Upholding these regulations is paramount to ensuring a level playing field for all candidates and maintaining the credibility of the examination process. Incorrect approaches analysis. Providing unauthorized supplementary materials or hints to a specific student, even with good intention, constitutes a direct violation of the Anhui Polytechnic University's examination regulations. This creates an unfair advantage for that student, undermining the principle of equal opportunity. It also breaches the ethical duty of impartiality expected of anyone involved in the examination process. Ignoring observed irregularities or student attempts to gain an unfair advantage is also a failure. This inaction allows for potential academic misconduct to go unchecked, which is contrary to the university's commitment to academic integrity. It implicitly condones unethical behavior and can erode the trust in the fairness of the examination system. Attempting to subtly influence the examination outcome or the grading process for a particular student, even if not directly providing answers, is a severe ethical and regulatory breach. This compromises the objectivity of the assessment and is a form of academic dishonesty. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings must prioritize adherence to established regulations and ethical codes. When faced with situations that could compromise fairness or integrity, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the relevant university regulations and ethical guidelines pertaining to examinations. 2. Assessing the situation against these established rules. 3. Taking immediate and appropriate action to uphold the regulations, which may include reporting observed misconduct. 4. Maintaining impartiality and avoiding any actions that could be perceived as creating an unfair advantage or disadvantage. 5. Documenting any actions taken and reporting them through the proper channels. Question 14. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a proposed new vocational training program, while projected to generate significant tuition revenue for Anhui Polytechnic University, has a curriculum that is somewhat outdated and lacks strong connections to current industry demands, potentially leading to lower graduate employment rates. The university administration is considering approving the program primarily due to its financial upside. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical obligations of Anhui Polytechnic University in this situation? Option A. Reject the program due to its academic weaknesses and potential negative impact on student employability, despite the financial benefits. Option B. Approve the program but heavily market its financial benefits while downplaying the curriculum's limitations to attract students. Option C. Approve the program and simultaneously initiate a comprehensive review and overhaul of the curriculum to ensure it meets current industry standards and enhances graduate outcomes. Option D. Approve the program immediately to secure the projected revenue, with a plan to update the curriculum in the future if necessary. Correct answer is D. Approve the program immediately to secure the projected revenue, with a plan to update the curriculum in the future if necessary. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate financial benefits of a new program against potential long-term reputational damage and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information to prospective students. The Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam regulatory framework emphasizes academic integrity, fairness, and the provision of truthful information to applicants. A decision that prioritizes short-term financial gain over these core principles would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the new program's alignment with the university's academic mission and its potential impact on student outcomes, even if it means foregoing immediate financial gains. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam's commitment to academic rigor and student welfare. The regulatory framework implicitly mandates that all university programs, especially those presented to prospective students, must be academically sound and contribute positively to the educational landscape. Prioritizing genuine academic value and student success over superficial financial benefits is the ethically and regulatorily sound path. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the projected revenue from the new program, without adequately considering its academic merit or potential for student success, fails to uphold the university's commitment to quality education. This approach risks misleading prospective students and could lead to a decline in the university's reputation, which is a critical asset. Furthermore, such a decision could be seen as violating the spirit, if not the letter, of regulations that govern the integrity of university admissions and program offerings. Another incorrect approach that involves launching the program quickly to capitalize on market demand, without sufficient due diligence regarding curriculum development, faculty qualifications, and long-term viability, is also professionally unacceptable. This haste can lead to a program that is poorly designed, inadequately supported, and ultimately detrimental to students. This disregards the university's responsibility to provide a high-quality educational experience and could result in regulatory scrutiny for misrepresentation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multifaceted evaluation. This includes assessing the academic rationale for any new program, its alignment with the university's strategic goals, the potential benefits and risks to students, and its compliance with all relevant Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam regulations. A robust internal review process, involving academic departments, admissions, and relevant administrative bodies, is crucial. Transparency with stakeholders, particularly prospective students, about the program's objectives and expected outcomes is also paramount. The ultimate decision should be guided by a commitment to academic excellence and student welfare, rather than solely by financial considerations. Question 15. When evaluating the permissible use of materials during the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, an applicant discovers a small, seemingly blank piece of paper tucked into their exam booklet. The applicant has not intentionally placed it there and is unsure of its origin. What is the most appropriate course of action according to the university's entrance exam guidelines? Option A. Discreetly examine the paper to see if it contains any hidden information, then dispose of it if it appears to be unauthorized. Option B. Attempt to discreetly pass the paper to a nearby student who might be struggling. Option C. Immediately inform the proctor or invigilator about the discovery of the paper and follow their instructions. Option D. Ignore the paper and continue with the exam, assuming it is irrelevant and not a violation. The correct answer is A. Discreetly examine the paper to see if it contains any hidden information, then dispose of it if it appears to be unauthorized. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Anhui Polytechnic University's specific entrance examination regulations and guidelines, particularly concerning academic integrity and the appropriate use of reference materials. The challenge lies in discerning between acceptable and unacceptable forms of assistance during the examination, which directly impacts the validity of the assessment and the fairness of the admission process. The correct approach involves understanding that Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance exam regulations strictly prohibit any form of external assistance or unauthorized materials. This approach aligns with the university's commitment to evaluating each applicant's individual knowledge and abilities. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams in China, including those administered by Anhui Polytechnic University, emphasizes academic honesty and the integrity of the examination process. Providing or receiving unauthorized aid is a direct violation of these principles, which are designed to ensure a fair and equitable evaluation for all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to interpret the regulations loosely, believing that subtle or indirect forms of assistance are permissible. For instance, attempting to use a pre-written note disguised as a personal item or relying on a fellow student for hints would be a clear violation. Such actions undermine the fundamental purpose of the entrance exam, which is to measure an individual's preparedness. Ethically, this constitutes dishonesty and a breach of trust with the examination authorities and other candidates. Another incorrect approach would be to claim ignorance of the rules as a defense. While genuine oversight can sometimes be considered, the responsibility lies with the applicant to be fully aware of and adhere to all examination regulations. Claiming ignorance does not absolve the applicant of the responsibility to maintain academic integrity. Professionals making decisions in similar situations should first thoroughly familiarize themselves with the specific rules and regulations governing the assessment. They should then critically evaluate their actions against these established guidelines, considering the intent and spirit of the rules, not just their literal wording. When in doubt, seeking clarification from the examination administrators before the exam is the most prudent course of action. The decision-making process should prioritize academic integrity, fairness, and adherence to the established regulatory framework. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows that an essay submission for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam exhibits a sophisticated argument and clear articulation of concepts, but a section of the essay contains phrasing that bears a striking resemblance to a widely published academic article on the same topic. The examiner must decide how to proceed with the evaluation. Which of the following actions best aligns with the principles of fair and rigorous academic assessment under the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam framework? Option A. Assign a lower score to the essay due to the perceived lack of originality in the phrasing, even if the core arguments are sound and well supported. Option B. Immediately disqualify the essay for suspected plagiarism, as the similarity in phrasing is a clear violation of academic integrity. Option C. Conduct a detailed comparative analysis of the essay's phrasing against the published article and other relevant sources, consulting the university's academic integrity policy to determine if the similarity constitutes plagiarism and how it should be addressed within the scoring rubric. Option D. Proceed with a standard evaluation of the essay's content and structure, noting the similarity in phrasing as a potential area for further inquiry if the candidate is shortlisted, without impacting the initial score. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the essay for suspected plagiarism, as the similarity in phrasing is a clear violation of academic integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fairness within the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance examination framework. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need to address potential irregularities with the imperative to uphold the established evaluation methodology and ensure all candidates are assessed equitably according to the defined standards. Misinterpreting or misapplying the examination guidelines can lead to unjust outcomes for candidates or undermine the credibility of the entire examination process. The correct approach involves a meticulous and objective review of the candidate's submission against the specific criteria outlined in the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam regulations for essay evaluation. This includes assessing the originality of ideas, the coherence of arguments, the clarity of expression, and adherence to any specified formatting or content requirements. Crucially, it requires a judgment based solely on the demonstrable quality of the work presented, as per the examination's established rubric, without introducing external biases or assumptions about the candidate's background or intent. This aligns with the regulatory framework's emphasis on standardized and objective assessment to ensure fair competition and meritocratic selection. An incorrect approach would be to immediately flag the essay for plagiarism based on a perceived similarity, without conducting a thorough comparative analysis against known sources or the examination's specific guidelines on academic integrity. This fails to adhere to the principle of due process and could unfairly penalize a candidate who may have independently arrived at similar conclusions or used common phrasing. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the essay due to minor stylistic deviations that do not fundamentally impact the quality of the content or violate explicit examination rules. This demonstrates a lack of nuanced judgment and an overly rigid interpretation of the evaluation criteria, potentially overlooking a strong candidate. A third incorrect approach would be to consider the candidate's perceived academic background or prior achievements when evaluating the essay, thereby introducing subjective bias and deviating from the standardized evaluation methodology. This violates the principle of assessing each submission on its own merits, according to the defined criteria. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, thoroughly understand the specific evaluation criteria and integrity policies of the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam. Second, objectively assess the candidate's work against these criteria, documenting all observations. Third, if potential issues arise, consult the relevant examination guidelines for procedures on handling suspected irregularities, which may involve further investigation or review by a designated committee. Finally, make a decision based strictly on the evidence and the established regulatory framework, ensuring fairness and consistency for all candidates. Question 17. Analysis of an applicant to Anhui Polytechnic University's engineering program who has a slightly lower than average high school academic performance, but has submitted a detailed personal statement explaining significant family responsibilities that impacted their study time. The applicant also highlights extensive participation in robotics clubs and winning regional competitions, showcasing practical application of engineering principles. The admissions committee is reviewing this application. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the university's likely admissions framework for such a scenario? Option A. Seek informal recommendations from local industry professionals to gauge the applicant's practical skills before making a decision. Option B. Thoroughly review the applicant's entire application, including their personal statement and evidence of extracurricular achievements, to assess their potential and suitability for the engineering program, considering the explained extenuating circumstances. Option C. Reject the application immediately due to the lower than average high school academic scores, as these are the primary indicators of academic readiness. Option D. Admit the applicant without further detailed evaluation, assuming their explanation and extracurriculars compensate for the academic scores. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly review the applicant's entire application, including their personal statement and evidence of extracurricular achievements, to assess their potential and suitability for the engineering program, considering the explained extenuating circumstances. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge common in university admissions, where an applicant's background might not perfectly align with standard criteria, but could indicate potential. The admissions committee must balance adherence to established university regulations with the need for fairness and the potential to identify promising candidates who might otherwise be overlooked. The pressure to maintain academic standards while also fostering diversity and inclusivity adds complexity to the decision-making process. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including supplementary materials that explain their unique circumstances and demonstrate their capabilities. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's commitment to a holistic admissions process, which, while guided by regulations, allows for consideration of individual merit and potential beyond strict numerical cutoffs. The university's guidelines likely emphasize evaluating candidates based on a comprehensive understanding of their academic achievements, extracurricular involvement, personal essays, and any mitigating factors presented. This approach ensures that decisions are informed, fair, and in accordance with the spirit of the university's admissions policies, which aim to select students who will thrive academically and contribute to the university community. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the applicant based solely on their lower than average high school scores, without considering the provided explanation for their circumstances. This fails to acknowledge the university's potential for considering extenuating factors and may lead to overlooking a candidate with significant potential who faced unusual challenges. It violates the principle of a comprehensive review and could be seen as an inflexible application of rules. Another incorrect approach would be to admit the applicant without any further scrutiny, simply because they provided an explanation. This would undermine the academic standards the university aims to uphold and could set a precedent for admitting students who do not meet the required academic threshold, potentially impacting the overall academic environment. It bypasses the necessary evaluation of whether the applicant's demonstrated abilities and potential truly align with the university's academic expectations, even with extenuating circumstances. A third incorrect approach would be to seek external opinions or endorsements from individuals not directly involved in the admissions process, without a clear policy allowing for such input. This could introduce bias and circumvent the established procedures for evaluating applications, potentially compromising the integrity and fairness of the admissions decision. University admissions are governed by specific internal policies and procedures, and deviating from these without authorization is a regulatory and ethical breach. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admission should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of the university's admissions regulations and guidelines. When faced with an application that presents unique circumstances, the first step is to review all provided documentation, including any explanations or supplementary materials. The next step is to assess how these circumstances might have impacted the applicant's academic record and to evaluate their demonstrated potential through other means. This assessment should be conducted in alignment with the university's stated admissions philosophy, which often includes a balance between academic rigor and the consideration of individual merit. If the regulations allow for discretion or consideration of extenuating circumstances, the professional should exercise this judgment carefully, ensuring that the decision is well-reasoned, documented, and defensible. If there is ambiguity, seeking clarification from senior admissions officers or referring to established precedents within the university is crucial. The ultimate goal is to make a fair and informed decision that upholds the university's standards while also providing opportunities for deserving candidates. Question 18. Benchmark analysis indicates that during the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance examination, an invigilator observes a student exhibiting signs of distress and repeatedly whispering what appears to be a question about a specific concept, not a direct answer, to a nearby student. The invigilator suspects this might be an attempt at unauthorized collaboration or seeking prohibited assistance. According to the regulatory framework and guidelines for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam, what is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the invigilator? Option A. Directly ask the student what they are whispering about, and based on their verbal response, decide whether to issue a warning or report them. Option B. Immediately stop the student and confiscate their examination paper, assuming a clear violation of academic integrity rules. Option C. Discreetly observe the students for a short period to gather more context. Then, if the behavior persists or escalates, discreetly approach the student to remind them of the examination rules regarding communication, and then report the incident to the examination supervisor for further action according to university policy. Option D. Ignore the whispering, assuming it is minor and unlikely to impact the exam's integrity, and focus on other candidates. The correct answer is C. Discreetly observe the students for a short period to gather more context. Then, if the behavior persists or escalates, discreetly approach the student to remind them of the examination rules regarding communication, and then report the incident to the examination supervisor for further action according to university policy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in academic settings where students may seek assistance that crosses the line into academic dishonesty. The challenge lies in identifying the subtle boundary between legitimate academic support and prohibited collaboration, and in responding appropriately without compromising the integrity of the examination process or unfairly penalizing a student. The university entrance exam context amplifies this challenge, as the stakes are exceptionally high for all involved. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation that adheres strictly to the Anhui Polytechnic University's regulations on academic integrity and examination conduct. This means gathering all available evidence, including the nature of the student's request and any observed interactions, and then presenting this evidence to the designated disciplinary committee or authority within the university. This committee, operating under the university's established procedures, will then make a determination based on the evidence and the university's specific rules regarding academic misconduct. This process ensures fairness, due process for the student, and upholds the university's commitment to academic honesty. The regulatory framework of Anhui Polytechnic University, as outlined in its student handbook and examination policies, would dictate the specific steps for reporting and investigating such incidents. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately dismiss the student's request without further inquiry. This fails to acknowledge the possibility that the student might have been seeking legitimate clarification, and it bypasses the university's established procedures for handling potential academic misconduct. It also risks alienating a student who might genuinely be confused about the boundaries of acceptable assistance. Another incorrect approach is to directly confront the student and issue a warning without involving the appropriate university authorities. This circumvents the formal disciplinary process, which is designed to ensure consistency and fairness. It also places the invigilator in a position of judgment without the proper mandate or procedural safeguards. The university's regulations would likely require such matters to be escalated. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the student's request and take no action. This is a dereliction of duty for an invigilator, as it allows potential academic dishonesty to go unchecked, thereby undermining the integrity of the examination. It also sets a precedent that such behavior may be tolerated, which is contrary to the principles of academic rigor expected by Anhui Polytechnic University. Professional reasoning. Professionals in examination invigilation must operate within a clear framework of university regulations and ethical guidelines. When faced with a situation that potentially involves academic misconduct, the primary decision-making process should be 1. Observe and document. Note the specific behavior or request. 2. Consult regulations. Refer to the Anhui Polytechnic University's official policies on academic integrity and examination conduct. 3. Report. Follow the prescribed procedure for reporting potential violations to the designated university authority or disciplinary committee. 4. Cooperate. Provide all necessary information and evidence to support the investigation. This systematic approach ensures that actions are compliant, fair, and uphold the standards of the institution. Question 19. Compliance review shows that during the recent Anhui Polytechnic University entrance examination, several anonymous reports were received alleging that some candidates may have colluded to share answers during the written tests. The examination committee is aware of these reports, but is hesitant to act due to concerns about potential disruption to the examination schedule and the possibility of widespread accusations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examination committee to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process? Option A. Disregard the anonymous reports as unsubstantiated and proceed with announcing the examination results as planned. Option B. Conduct a limited review of examination papers for candidates who were flagged for unusual answer patterns, ignoring other reports to avoid unnecessary complications. Option C. Issue a general warning to all candidates about the importance of academic integrity and the consequences of cheating, without investigating the specific anonymous reports. Option D. Initiate a formal, impartial investigation into the specific allegations of collusion, gathering evidence and following the university's established examination disciplinary procedures. Correct answer is D. Initiate a formal, impartial investigation into the specific allegations of collusion, gathering evidence and following the university's established examination disciplinary procedures. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between academic integrity and the pressure to achieve favorable outcomes, which can manifest in various forms of misconduct. The university entrance exam context demands strict adherence to fairness and transparency. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of these principles. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the alleged irregularities, gathering all relevant evidence, and applying the established examination regulations of Anhui Polytechnic University. This upholds the principle of fairness to all candidates and maintains the credibility of the examination process. Specifically, it aligns with the university's commitment to academic honesty and the integrity of its admissions procedures, as typically outlined in its examination rules and student conduct policies. The process should be transparent and allow for due process for any candidate accused of misconduct. An incorrect approach that involves immediate disciplinary action without a proper investigation fails to uphold due process and may lead to unjust penalties. This violates the fundamental principles of fairness and could expose the university to challenges regarding its procedures. It bypasses the requirement to establish facts and evidence, which is a cornerstone of any fair disciplinary process. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the allegations due to potential negative publicity, directly undermines the university's responsibility to ensure a fair and equitable examination. This inaction allows potential misconduct to go unaddressed, eroding trust in the examination system and potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates. It represents a failure to uphold regulatory and ethical obligations to maintain academic standards. A further incorrect approach, which is to selectively investigate only those allegations that are easily verifiable, is also professionally unacceptable. This selective approach introduces bias and fails to conduct a comprehensive review, potentially overlooking significant breaches of examination rules. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to thoroughness and impartiality, which are critical for maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Acknowledge and document all allegations received. 2. Initiate a preliminary assessment to determine the credibility and scope of the allegations. 3. Formulate a clear investigation plan, adhering strictly to Anhui Polytechnic University's examination regulations and any relevant provincial or national educational guidelines governing university admissions in China. 4. Conduct a thorough and impartial investigation, collecting all relevant evidence, including witness statements, documentation, and any digital records. 5. Provide the accused candidate, S, with an opportunity to respond to the allegations and present their defense. 6. Make a decision based on the evidence gathered and in accordance with the established regulations. 7. Communicate the decision and any subsequent actions clearly and transparently. Question 20. Research into effective preparation strategies for the Anhui Polytechnic University entrance exam has led a student to discover an online forum where past students claim to have shared actual exam questions from previous years. The student is considering reviewing these shared questions to better understand the exam's difficulty and question types. Option A. The student should focus solely on official study materials provided by Anhui Polytechnic University and authorized practice tests, as reviewing unverified past exam questions from unofficial sources could be considered academic misconduct. Option B. The student should use the shared exam questions as a primary study guide, assuming they accurately reflect the current exam's content and difficulty. Option C. The student should attempt to contact the administrators of the online forum to verify the authenticity of the shared exam questions before reviewing them. Option D. The student should actively engage with the online forum to gather as many shared exam questions as possible, as this is a common and effective method for understanding exam patterns. The correct answer is A. The student should focus solely on official study materials provided by Anhui Polytechnic University and authorized practice tests, as reviewing unverified past exam questions from unofficial sources could be considered academic misconduct. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an understanding of the ethical responsibilities and academic integrity expected of students within the Anhui Polytechnic University's entrance examination framework. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the desire to perform well with the obligation to adhere to the examination's rules and principles of academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to discern between legitimate preparation methods and actions that constitute academic misconduct. The correct approach involves utilizing resources that are explicitly permitted or are standard academic tools for learning and preparation, such as textbooks, lecture notes, and officially sanctioned practice materials. This aligns with the Anhui Polytechnic University's commitment to fair assessment and the development of genuine understanding. The regulatory framework for university entrance examinations in China, including those administered by Anhui Polytechnic University, emphasizes academic integrity and prohibits any form of cheating or unauthorized assistance. Relying on permitted study materials demonstrates respect for these regulations and fosters a genuine learning process, which is the ultimate goal of the entrance examination. An incorrect approach would be to seek or use unauthorized assistance, such as obtaining actual exam questions or answers from external sources. This directly violates the principles of academic honesty and the specific regulations governing university entrance examinations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field for all candidates. Such actions undermine the validity of the examination and can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential disciplinary action by the university. Another incorrect approach would be to engage in collusion with other candidates to share information during the examination period, as this also constitutes cheating and violates the spirit of individual assessment. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the examination's rules and regulations. Candidates should always err on the side of caution and only engage in preparation methods that are demonstrably permissible. If there is any doubt about the appropriateness of a particular resource or method, it is best to seek clarification from the examination authorities or refrain from using it. Prioritizing academic integrity and ethical conduct is paramount, as it not only ensures compliance with regulations, but also contributes to the development of a strong ethical foundation for future academic and professional endeavors.